So as David said, this is SBC at home this morning. It's one of those kind of mornings where we do things a little bit differently. It's one of those mornings where we describe it as celebrating life together as SBC. Are the slides not... Oh, okay, hang on. Technical issue, one moment. I'm kind of banking on having some slides up there, otherwise I'm not going to make a lot of sense. Not that I do at the best of times anyway. But there we go. Oh, look at that. There we go. Smooth operation. So we describe SBC at home as this kind of thing of celebrating life together as SBC. It's a moment for us to slow down our lives a little bit, because I don't know what your life is like if it's anything like mine. It's very hectic, very busy. You can come along on a Sunday and we kind of do Sunday and we go home and then we go into the rest of our week and life is just really busy. And actually, we don't always get an opportunity to stop, to pause life a little bit, to slow life down just a little bit and go, just take a moment to breathe and thank God for everything that we have here as a church together. So that's what this SBC at home kind of thing is in our life. If you're a regular part of church, if you call SBC your home, you'll know kind of a little bit of that. Or if this is new to you, then there's a little explanation for you. And over the last few weeks, or months really, we've been doing this thing on faith stories. We've been looking at different people through the Bible, looking at their lives and what can we learn from their faith story, their moment in their life, or different moments throughout their life where God has been at work doing something. We see moments of their journey of faith and the story it leaves them with. And I think one of the reasons this is so powerful for us is because we all have a story to share, and we all find story really powerful, don't we? If you pick up a book, usually the story grips you, and you'll be embedded into it. You get into the life of the characters, you see what's going on for them, and you kind of, sometimes you put a book down, then it kills off your favorite character, and you get really sad by it, or something like that. Or we just hear someone's story. I don't know if you are into what you watch on TV. My wife and I have just been watching Race Across the World at the moment, and you see their stories, and why are they doing this crazy race across the world? Well, it's because they've got a story that they want to reconnect with a parent, or they want to get closer with their friend, or whatever it might be. You start to hear more and more of their lives, more of their story, and there's something really powerful about that. It draws us in. And I wonder, as we've been doing this series over the last few months here at church, I wonder whether you've stopped for a moment to think, what's your faith story? Because it's all well and good, we've been looking and exploring the different faith stories of these characters in the Bible. But do we stop to then ask the question, well, hang on a minute, what's my faith story? Because that's also really, really important. Every single one of you has a faith story. A story of somewhere on your journey through life with Jesus, where God has been at work. Maybe it's how you came to faith is your big faith story, or maybe it's a health challenge that God has brought you through or is working in the middle of at the moment. Whatever it might be, we all have a story to share. And as we've said, stories can be really, really powerful. And I think one of the things that stories are meant to be is they're meant to be shared. So how do you share your faith story as well is really important. You never know what could happen when you share your faith story with somebody. They could hear it and they could be overwhelmed at who this God is that they've never really heard much about, never thought too much about. But suddenly hearing how he's been at work in and through your life has made them stop and pause and take notice. Our stories are really powerful when we share them. And it's not just people in the Bible who have faith stories or us as individuals who have a faith story. I think it's also true that we as a church have a faith story. We as South Court Baptist Church have a faith story, a history of where God has been at work in us, but also, really importantly, through us as well. Both of those, I think, are really important, and they both come together to make up our faith story. I don't know if you've looked through, well, you probably have, in Paul's letters that he writes to churches in the New Testament. There's loads of these different letters he writes to people and groups of people, churches, new churches that have just been formed all around the world. And often when he addresses those letters, he addresses it to a certain people. So he might be speaking to a church in Corinth or Ephesus. And he addresses them and he kind of says, it's me, Paul, hi, servant of Christ Jesus. And then he says, I thank God for this that I keep hearing about you. Or it's amazing when I hear stories of what is happening in and amongst you guys. Or I hear the good stuff that you are doing. Loads of his letters that he addresses to the church start in that way. It's, I thank God for this. I've heard of this. I continually keep you in my prayers. And I thought I'd just read one of those to us this morning. This is from Philippians. It's in the first chapter, just right, like I say, right at that very start of this letter as he addresses to them. And he says this. He says, I thank my God every time I remember you. In all of my prayers for all of you, I always pray with joy because of your partnership in the gospel from the first day until now, being confident of this, that he who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. So he's addressing the people there, the church in Philippi, and he's saying, I've heard of the great stuff that you are doing, how you're connected together. You're connected with other churches, whether you know it or not. You're connected with these other churches around the world, and I'm continuing to pray for you, that you would know that keep going doing the good stuff that you're doing. He's kind of acknowledging, I've seen and heard of your faith story as a church. Keep going, keep doing more. And when I thought about this, I thought, I wonder if we were there in that time, what would Paul write to us? What would other people say about us as Southcourt Baptist Church as they write a letter to us? What would their opening few lines be? Would it be about the good stuff that hopefully we've been doing in our community, in our world? Would it be about the fact that people are coming and finding God in this place? Or people's lives are being transformed by being a part of this church? And we've been doing this thing of sharing our faith story in 5 words or less. And I thought I'd kind of busk on that same theme this morning. And as we look at our church and we look at our church's faith story, I thought I'd use 3 words, keep it simple, keep it a bit shorter. You don't want to be here all day listening to me rabbit on. But I thought I'd use 3 words to describe the faith story of SBC. And I think these are the words that I came up with. And they all start with the letter C. It's always really nice when it does that, isn't it? But I've got these 3 words of community, connection, and change. And I thought what I'd do over the next few minutes is just look at each of them in turn, why I think they play a part in our faith story, why I think they're so important for our faith story. And hopefully as we look into this, we won't just be encouraged that, hey, this is a good church to be a part of this morning, but maybe that God would speak something to us in a fresh way for us this morning as we really grapple with what it means to be a part of this church and to be a part of the faith story of this church. So we're going to look at each of them in turn. The first one is community. Now, of course, I don't know what you first think of when you hear community. You might think of a physical, geographical location. This is ours. This is Google Maps of us, Southcourt Baptist Church. We are here in Southcourt Estate. It's an estate in Aylesbury in Buckinghamshire. That's our geographical location. We are 40 Penn Road. This is our community. We look out of the windows there. There's houses. There's people going about their lives. This is our physical location that we are a part of. And a little bit of a history lesson for us. I hope I've got this right. Please correct me if I've got it wrong. But we have been here in some way, shape, or form since 1929. That's nearly 100 years that Southcourt Baptist Church has been a part of this community. And that plays a huge role in our vision. If you've been with us for the last few months, back in January, we launched this new vision and values for us as church. And this morning, I'm going to be weaving loads of those bits in and out of what we are saying this morning. And in our vision statement, this is the opening line of our vision statement. We exist to serve our local community. We want to be an ever-growing place of grace, hope, help, and healing in the heart of our community. So community is a really big deal for us as church. Being present in this neighborhood is a really big deal for us, for any church, the immediate location that they're a part of. We really strongly believe we have not been put on this place. This building was not built here by accident. But we really strongly believe that God wants us to be here because he's got a plan for us to be right here as a church in this community. Maybe you've heard me mention before that I sometimes view us as a church as a bit of a lighthouse. I had this picture a while ago that we're a bit like a lighthouse in the same way that a lighthouse guides people away from crashing into the land right on the end of the sea there. It's kind of similar for us. Maybe as a church, part of, if not all of, what we're about is to guide people to safety, to guide people away from things in life that are going to hurt them, that are not good for them. We are like a lighthouse to say to people that there is more to life than maybe what you're already experiencing. There's more to life than this. Our job as a church is to point people to Jesus, to safety, to him. To show them, to help them see maybe that regardless of the circumstances that you find yourself in, the addictions that you find yourself wrapped up in, the purpose of your life, all of those things, we need Jesus for. Jesus is more powerful than the current circumstance that you find yourself in. He's more powerful than the addiction that you find yourself wrapped up in. He's more powerful than whatever purpose we could come up with for our own lives. And he's a God who meets every single one of our needs. All of our needs can be found and cared for and given through God. In our values, we say this. We say that we want to be an active church. What do we mean by that? Well, we mean that we want to put our faith into action. We're not going to be spectators, but we will get involved, making a positive difference in our world. We want to be a place of equality and justice, taking seriously our responsibility to care for God's creation. I think for all of us, that's so true that we don't just want to be people who gather here on a Sunday and it means nothing. We want to be an active church as we go and live the rest of our lives, Monday through to next Sunday. We want our faith to mean something, don't we? We want it to have an impact in our world, to make a positive difference. It has to be. So that's like geographical, our location as community, but also there's more to it than that for us as church. It's not just a community that we find ourselves in, but also we as church are family. You've probably heard it described, we're all part of the church community together. Maybe as you gather on a Sunday, you look at that picture and go, that describes what we're doing here today. People of all different shapes, sizes, personalities, backgrounds. We are all part of this church community, Southcourt Baptist Church, together. As you sit here this morning, you are part of this church community. Whether this is your first time with us this morning, welcome by the way, or whether you've been here for nearly all of those 100 years that we've been a part of this community, you are a part of this community. And as a Baptist church, especially, that is a core value of ours, that we are a community. We love using this phrase of doing life together, because it describes that's what we're here for, to do life together, to be in community with each other. That's why we value partnerships so highly. You've probably heard me rave on about it for so long, you're probably bored of hearing about it. And don't worry, I'm not going to go there. You're safe this morning. But that's why we do partnership, because we don't believe we're meant to just be people who gather here as individuals. We're meant to be part of a church together, partners in this thing together, a part of something bigger than ourselves, seeking God together. And a few more of our values. Part of being a church community is we want to be a welcoming church. We recognize that everyone is amazingly, uniquely created by God. Every human being has immense value. And we want to be welcoming and offer belonging to everyone. We want to have big open doors and say, come be part of the family. You are so welcome here. And hopefully, I imagine if you've come back at least more than once to be part of church here, you've probably experienced some of that welcome. You've come and you've felt that this is a place where I can belong. This is a place where it feels like they want me to be here. So hopefully that is true. And we hear that from people that I felt really welcomed as I came. So we love that. But we don't just want to stop at kind of being church. We want to continue to grow and to learn and to develop ourselves. We know that we are not the finished article. So that's why we say we want to be a curious church. We want to continue to ask good questions. We want to continue to grow and to be lifelong learners as well. Again, being a community is a big word in our life as church. So that's the first one. The second thing is connection. Now, I don't just mean that this is a building where you get good Wi-Fi signal, because sometimes it's really good. Sometimes it's a little bit intermittent. Maybe you've experienced that. The tech crew this morning have definitely experienced that. I feel very sorry for them. But it's not Wi-Fi connection. It's about connection with each other and with God. That's why we gather together. That's why we do community. It's not just because we like to hang out with each other, as great as that is, but actually part of the reason we do church is because we want to connect with one another. That's why we do life together. That saying again. Because that's what it's all about, supporting each other, connecting with one another, encouraging each other, doing life together. We say that we want to not just simply be a bunch of individuals who happen to be in the same place at the same time. You know, that's true. Okay, maybe as you come as part of church, that is a true fact. We are just a bunch of individuals who have gathered here together, but it's for more than that. It's for community, like we've said. It's for connection with each other. We're united partners and friends, taking ownership for a cause that we all care about and we all believe in. We want to be a connecting church. But it's also more than just human connection. That's amazing. I mean, that's one of the huge benefits of church, is that we connect with other people. We can do life with other people. But it's also about the fact that we connect with God. For nearly 100 years, this church has gathered in some way, shape, or form to worship and connect with God. Like, let that sink in for just a moment. That's a fair old chunk of time. That's a really long time that people have done this, that they've acknowledged that this is a place where God is. As I step in through those doors, I'm almost expectant that I'm going to meet with God as I come into this place, that I'm going to hear from God, that something in my life may change just by walking through those doors, because this is a place where God is. For all those years, people have been worshiping God here together, encountering God here together. Maybe lives have been changed and transformed. Hundreds, maybe thousands of people's lives have been changed and transformed for the better by connecting with God here. But it's not just that by gathering here together, each and every one of us, you guys sat here, we're a part of that history as well. How amazing is that? And we mustn't forget that we are also a part of that. It's not just about the songs that we come and sing, although we worship God in that way. It's not just about someone standing up here and talking at us for a fair chunk of time and whether we stay awake through it or not. It's not even, dare I say it, and this is really important, this one, it's not even about the coffee and the donuts, although they are an essential part, I believe. The main focus has got to be about Jesus. That's why we come. That's what we're seeking, connection with God. Connection with other people. And I'm sure you know this, but this is just a reminder for us that it's not about going through the motions when we gather together as church, but actually we are opening ourselves up to being changed as we come into this place. As Jesus said, I love this. This is one of my favorite Jesus sayings that he says, where 2 or 3 gather in my name, there I am with them. We're more than 2 or 3 here this morning. Where 2 or 3 people gather in my name, I'm with them. When we get here on a Sunday, God is here. God is here with us. And we can come expectant of that. And we can expect that as we come into this place, God is going to breathe fresh life into us. Maybe you've come here this morning and you feel at the end of yourself and you're thinking, God, I really could do with connecting with you this morning, because I'm running on empty, I'm running on fumes. Or maybe you feel amazing, and that's another reason you want to come and connect with God, to say thank you for who God is and what God has done. So that's the second thing. Third thing, we're nearly there, is change. So yes, we're a place of community, And we're a place of connection with other people, with God. And I think it's by that connection with God that things change in our lives. Our vision as a church, you've probably heard it loads of times before, you've probably read it in the booklets, but is we want to see positive change happen in our community and, as a result, in our world. This is what we say. We say that we want to see a neighborhood where the hungry are fed, the streets are safer, the next generation is thriving, the community is more united, oppressions are being lifted, minds, bodies, and souls are being mended, more laughter is heard, and the love, favor, and presence of God is felt. Imagine what our world would look like if all of those things come tomorrow morning were true, of where God sends you on a Monday, wherever your work is, or here in this community, in our wider world. Imagine what the world would look like if that came true. The potential for change when God enters into our lives is huge. And I think this change comes from hard work, dedication, and a commitment to loving other people, loving our community, and bringing God into the equation. One of our other values is we say we want to be positive, life change focused. That's what we want. We know that we're not a finished product. We know there's more to come from us. We could always be a bit more like Jesus. We want to be positive, life change focused. Encourage and help each other to take responsibility for our own personal growth. Like, we are the best person to help ourselves change. And as community together, we can do that, supporting each other, empowering each other for the God-given potential for change that's in all of us. We want to grow to be more and more like Jesus. We don't just want to stop with thinking, I'm quite a nice person. I say hello to people in the street. I'm quite nice. We want to be more than just nice people. We don't just want to be a place where people say, Southcote Baptist Church is full of nice, kind people. What we want and what we know is true and what we want to see more of is that when people think of us, when they say of who is SBC, that they say that that's a place where lives are changed. There's amazing stuff happening there. They're doing some amazing stuff. They saved my life. God saved my life. I met with God in that place. I'd never heard of God before, but something just clicked. That's what we want to be. We want to be a place where lives are changed. And we want to be a place where we can grow to be more and more like Jesus. We want to be a devoted church. A place of growth, transformation, and thriving. Some great big words. And we want to be committed to growing as followers of the way of Jesus. We don't just want to stop where we are. We want to keep going. We want to keep getting better. We want to keep becoming more and more like Jesus. Doing more and more of what Jesus did in our community, in our town, in our world maybe. So I wonder for you this morning, where does that leave you? Where does that leave us this morning? Maybe as you sit here this morning, you think, I love being part of this church. Hearing all of that, maybe we don't always get the time to pat ourselves on the back a little bit. Or to say, God, you are doing some amazing stuff in this community. God, I thank you that I can be a part of this community. Where does that leave us this morning? Well, maybe that's you this morning. You feel like that. Maybe you feel like I want to be more a part of this community. If that's you, then I'd encourage you to come and chat to one of us about how you could be more involved. There's stuff at the back. The welcome desk there's got information about how you could get more involved in the life of us as church. Connect with us more. I'd be happy to chat to anybody about any of that. But where does that leave you? And what's your faith story? We've spoken about ours as a church this morning, but I want to encourage you to think about yours. And how could yours play out by being a part of this community? Where does God send you tomorrow morning, the rest of your week? How can you share what your faith story is with people? Because I'm sure that your faith story is powerful. And people will be encouraged, they'll be challenged, they'll be inspired as they hear it. I want to finish this morning by praying this prayer of blessing over us. It's a prayer that Paul prays over the church in Ephesus. And I think the words are amazing. I think it's probably for us too. We can pray this over ourselves this morning. So I'd love to encourage you, if you're able to stand with us, we're going to worship as we finish here. So if the band could come up as well, please. So we want to just set our hearts for a moment as we hear these words, this prayer over us as church, as individuals who are not just individuals, but who are here because we are part of something bigger than ourselves. For this reason, I kneel before the Father, from whom every family in heaven and on earth derives its name. I pray that out of his glorious riches, he may strengthen you with power through his Spirit in your inner being, so that Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith. And I pray that you, being rooted and established in love, may have power, together with all God's holy people, to grasp how wide and long and high and deep is the love of Christ, and to know this love that surpasses knowledge, that you may be filled to the measure of all the fullness of God. Now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine, according to his power that is at work within us, within you, to him be glory in this church and in Christ Jesus throughout all generations, forever and ever. Amen.